course, we all know that this is how the infamous Christmas song, Deck the Halls, begins. It then implores, as we go through the song, to put on our best clothes, to get cozy around a Yuletide fire, and we are to join the merry chorus, and then we are to sing in wild abandon. And after this year, I just really want to channel another famous tradition now and simply say, bah humbug. With this year that we've all endured, stirring up that holiday cheer and decking our halls with boughs of holly, maybe hard. But as we enter this season and prepare to celebrate the birth of Christ, we are called to embrace this time of Advent, this time of waiting to discover what gifts Advent brings to us. And this sermon series, Deck the Halls, calls us to deck out our lives, to decorate our lives with the eternal hope, the comforting peace, the unspeakable joy, and the divine love that Christ, the Christ child, has brought to us. Today brings us hope, and yes, I know we're in the second Sunday of Advent and we lit the peace candle, but we're a week behind because we had hanging of the greens this week, and so we will do them sort of out of order. But I think that we can all agree that we could all use a bit of hope in these dark days. All of us hope for this coronavirus to be behind us as we enter the new year. All of us hope for a vaccine to quickly be approved. All of us hope for our divided nation to somehow reunite and move forward. All of us hope for no more deaths. All of us are full of anticipation and hope because we're all weary and we are exhausted. And we so desire for, as this famous carol, perhaps your favorite Christmas carol, O Holy Night, says with its famous line of, long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared, and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope for a weary world rejoices. We need this thrill of hope. But what does that look like? For our weary world to rejoice, should we even be rejoicing in this time of great sadness, in these days of economic turmoil, these lives lost to us in racism and hatred, with fear and anxiety running in overdrive, death from this disease? What does it look like for us to rejoice and to hope? This is the question that the church is challenged with, and we act out an answer for every single week, every single day, and especially during Advent. We don't pretend that it's all tied up in a nice little, neat little bow, or that our halls are decked out in perfect order. But rather we proclaim hope to a world that is really hurting, to have the capacity to rejoice in the midst of deep sorrow, to hold hope through that sorrow and through that sadness. We don't obscure it, say that it doesn't exist, but rather we proclaim hope through it. And this may sound a little impossible because far from decking out our halls, most of us just want to slink into a long winter's nap, to numb the pain, to let go of the hope. Yet in this season, as our candles proclaim, we are called to hope. We look forward to seeing this hope in our scripture. Sorry, I'm really throbbing my throat this morning. Through seemingly impossible scenarios, we see a world weary from taxation and oppression, and they are given a Messiah. We see a young, unwed mother full of anxiety who finds faith in her family and in the child within her. We see a group of magi, of astrologers, following a star where good news comes to them in the form of a Messiah. We see good news coming to those shepherds, the outcasts, the lowest forms of our society. We, the weary world, proclaim hope today in all that is seemingly impossible. A weary world, a thrill of hope. What does this look like, this thrill of hope in the sadness and even in the darkness? That is what we cling to. Movie directors love this theme of a thrill of hope, and a couple of recent movies portray this hope. This thrill of hope against all odds. The first one, you could probably think of tons of these movies, but the first one is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, but you should be if you're not. It comes to mind in the final scene, the evil wizard. Does anybody know Harry Potter? Has anybody all read those besides me? I don't read them. They're like awesome. But at any rate, in the last scene of the last book, the evil wizard Voldemort and his armies are coming and they're assailing the walls of Hogwarts Castle. And the team of good wizards, the students, and the Order of the Phoenix, who are also the good guys, they lift their wands in unity, and they form a shield around the entire castle, protecting it from the power of the evil that's assaulting them. They're outnumbered, but they stand in unity, hope against all hope. And then, of course, you have Star Wars and the Rise of Skywalker. Have y'all seen that one? Many of you have, right? A few of you? Yeah, okay. So, facing the innumerable ships of the Final Order, hope is completely lost for those resistance fighters that are out on some unknown planet. They only have a handful of ships and hardly any leaders. It's clear that they're going to lose, and hope is far from their minds. And then out of the void, ships from all across the galaxy come streaming towards the planet, united to fight for the resistance. And the best scene is when Lando and Chewie, are y'all familiar with Lando and Chewbacca? Right? You know? Chewbacca's the big hairy, guy. But Lando is from the very first couple of things. And Lando and Chewie are in the front of the pack. And Lando cries out this line, "Hope has arrived." The thrill of these characters arriving instills hope. Friends, hope is thrilling. It causes us to wake up. It stands in the face of weariness, of sorrow, of darkness. Which leads us to our Markan text, where we hear this invitation to hope in the midst of deep darkness, where the sun is dark and the moon is not giving any light at all, where stars are falling from the heavens and there is suffering. These climactic movie scenes, which I just talked about, they tug on something really deep within us. For a moment, like we hear in Mark, that through the darkness, through deep suffering, the Son of Man arrives. These movies tug on this desire of ours to believe that hope will arrive, that hope does emerge from the darkness. If we move on in that Markan text, we get to the fig tree. Jesus talks a lot about fig trees in the Gospels, and it's usually a parable of health and flourishing of God's people. But many times the fig tree is cursed because people have turned away from God. But in today's text, the fig tree's branches are becoming tender. New growth is coming. And the author says, learn from this lesson. Keep awake, for he is near. The tender buds of hope are emerging. It's time for us to ready ourselves. Hope is coming. It can be so easy for us to slip into a mode of Advent where we simply wait passively because it's just not time yet. But this text is saying, watch. Watch out for those tender buds. Hope expectantly. Summer is coming. Light is coming. Hope is coming. Is this not why we hang our greens? So we too can begin to hope, to ready ourselves. Or it's like kids seeing presents appear under the tree. Every day they look to see if one more has arrived underneath that tree. They know it's not time yet, but that doesn't mean that they look expectantly and hopefully, seeing if that particular package has their name on it. It's exciting to hope and to wonder. That's the central point of hope, the central point of Advent. We anticipate and we remember all the ways that God has already been good to us, and we anticipate more. We believe, like a child, that our loving God also has good things in store for us just as in the past, and we hope and we wait together. Advent, in this frame of mind, becomes a season of deep celebration, not in all the joyous songs, not at least quite yet, but instead a rise in our deep inner longings, like the light of these candles. This hope starts to burn within us, and it grows brighter and brighter from day to day, from week to week, as we get closer to the birth of the Christ child. In this context, when we hear Jesus' teaching, beware, stay alert, for you do not know when the time will come, it makes great sense. The hope that begins to burn within us calls for watchfulness and readiness. When our girls were young, my parents would always make the trek from Maine to Pennsylvania to spend Christmas with us. And their arrival was always such a huge highlight for the girls, and they would prepare themselves for the day that they would arrive. My father was like a stopwatch. If he said he was going to be there at 4 o'clock, he would arrive at 3:55. And so the girls began to know this about my father, and they would sit in our dining room window and they would watch for that car to turn into that driveway. It was raw hope. It was just such anticipation of what will be. This is what Jesus calls us to do, this same readiness, this same watchfulness, that the Master will return, that dawn will break, that light will come. Advent is so much more than just watching for Christmas. As this text reminds us, it also has an apocalyptic side to it, where we wait for what will be revealed when the Master returns home. We wait in all the pain of this pandemic, and we hold hope in the coming of a new day, as a people united in new ways. We wait in hope of what God will reveal at his second coming as well. A hope for all people. A short little poem says this: the world says all is lost, and God says all is loved. The darkness says the light is dying, and the light says the fire is catching. Fear says, cover your eyes and your ears. Hope says, wait, watch, and listen. So friends, let us put our hope in the living hope of God. Let us deck the halls of our hearts in hope. For it is in this manger we celebrate the birth of hope and the return of our Prince of Peace. Let us come to Christ and decorate the halls of our hearts and our very lives in hope.